Hey, welcome back to my channel. Oh, I'm getting an echo. Okay. Hey, welcome back to my channel. So it's Melissa here with another video. I am live as I'm waiting on people to come in. We could just talk about a little bit of house business. You guys have requested this topic, so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about relationships, healthy marriages, that type of thing. So hopefully as we all start coming in, we'll get the conversation going. But in the meantime, make sure you hit the like button to this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and definitely hit the notification bell to be the first to know when I drop a video. Hopefully the notification bell is working a little bit better. I hear you guys and you're saying, you know what, I hit it and I still don't get the notifications. So hopefully we do. Hopefully you do get the notifications. If not, you already know I'm going to be having this conversation with myself. So anyway, welcome to those of you that are watching the playback. If you missed this live, of course, it will be replayed. Hey, y'all. Hey, April. Hey, just me. Yeah, so I'm just doing a little housekeeping, saying, hey, as we wait for people to come in. I know that some people were saying the notification bell is acting kind of wonky. You know what? I could leave it on, but that wasn't a look. It was just a little slick back pony. So, but anyway, you know what? I want to get this conversation started because we tend to be on live for a good amount of time. So the more I stall, the longer this live will be. So people will start coming in, jumping in, and that's fine. So anyway, relationships, the truth about marriage, the truth about relationships, and that type of thing. So like I said, you guys asked for this topic. It came up because we were talking about toxic relationships. And again, we were talking about toxic friendships, marriages, siblings, different things like that. And that was a really good conversation. You guys chimed in and it was great. Well, then one of the commenters chimed in and said, well, what about marriages? I've been married for, I forgot how many years she said, but I think she said almost 30 years. And I want to talk about happy marriages. So that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully that person comes in and chimes in and we'll be good to go. So anyway, let's get the conversation started. So relationships, happy marriages, you know, my first, foremost, ultimately, what I have to say on this subject of marriage is if you are married, if you're going to get married, if you desire to be married, my number one thing is you can't compare your relationship or what you think marriage should be to someone else, because you are an individual. Your spouse is an individual, and you're going to come and you're going to join in. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't take things from other people's relationship. Hey, I like the way they do this. I like the way they do that. I like the way, you know, they communicate that. Yes, you can do that. But what I'm talking about is the fantasy world. One big mistake I think in marriage is that we come into marriage relationships thinking and having a romanticized or a imagination of what marriages should be. Now, should we have standards for marriage? Meaning, you know what, if I have a man, I have a husband, he should be this, not be, but I expect him to pay bills. I expect him to be a Christian. I expect him not to be a Christian. Whatever it is that your expectations are, that is personal to you. But I think that a large pitfall, for an example, is that a lot of times people will compare their marriages to someone else. And the truth of the matter is, unless you're with a couple 24/7, you really have no idea what's going on in their marriage. So that's my number one absolutely tip, is get rid of the fantasy as far as what you feel like this person should be, gonna be, will be. That is an individual, and that's going to take an individualized conversation with your partner. I think one of the greatest things that my husband and I do is that we sit down and we talk about, okay, what is it that you think a marriage is? What is it that you think a husband is? What is it that you think a wife is? Because if you just go into a marriage with your expectations of what you think a marriage is or what marriages could be, you might be disappointed because your spouse has no idea and cannot and will not live up to that expectation. So it's very good to talk and to keep the conversation going, even throughout the years, because 20-year-old Missy is not the same Missy that I am at 48 years old. So if you're not talking and you're not keeping the communication up and just kind of rechecking in and saying, you know what I allowed, accepted, thought was funny or whatever at a younger age, that's not what I'm accepting or whatever. These are my needs have changed. So that's my thing. Um, Unfortunately, healthy marriages, healthy relationships don't always get the publication or the media attention or the attention that they should. A lot of people just really don't believe in marriage these days. Some people absolutely still do believe in marriage, but marriages, there's still people that have solid marriages. Like I said, this conversation was viewers' choice. Someone in the comment section said, hey, let's talk about marriage. Let's talk about healthy relationships, because we've been on toxic relationships for like 2-3 weeks now. So, and it's a good conversation. So make sure you chime in, leave a comment down below if you have an idea, an expectation for marriage, and it is what it is, and that person has to lead up to that. One of the things that I just said, and I'm going to reiterate, is we have to make sure that we allow each other to be individuals. You do have those couples where they've blended so much that they've lost themselves. I don't think that that's a healthy marriage. Now, just because you do things with your spouse all the time and spend time together, I'm not talking about that. But when you lost your identity, you lose who you are because of a relationship. That's what I'm talking about. That's not healthy. Healthy relationships have a separate identity from their spouse. You have some people, and it may or may not work for them. I don't know, but you have some people and they're like, we spend all of our waking moments together. It's great and everything. And you just don't understand. Just be careful that you aren't justifying, the codependent relationship that you may have for that person. Because if that person can't breathe without you or go somewhere without you, or you can't go somewhere without them, I don't know. That's kind of problematic. Hey, Felicia. So we're getting into this conversation about healthy relationships. I'm giving some pointers, some tips of what I've observed in healthy, great relationships. I see you guys coming in. We just got started. The first thing that I said is making sure that we don't come into a relationship with imaginary expectations. I'm an individual. My husband's an individual. We have individual ideas, desires, and everything, and they change throughout the years. So in every way, in every area, in everything. So if you're not keeping up the conversation, you're not staying intimate enough to get to know and remain intimate with your partner, then you're going to probably run into some problems, because you're now dealing with the 30-year-old person that has developed into their 30-year-old desires and different things like that, but yet you're stuck on 20-year-old. So there are healthy marriages, but the one of the biggest things that, even for my marriage, I always tell people, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. Meaning, you could look at a relationship and you could say, you know what, they look like the perfect couple. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I have never, ever, ever met the perfect couple. So let's shout out real quick before we go on. Shannon says, hey, Shannon. And Wanda, hey, Wanda, good to see you again. Thanks for stopping by and listening. Felicia, of course. April, of course. Both of them came in, and Keandra and April, we all said hi. Hey. All I know is that I need some breathing room. I am loyal, but I don't like being on lockdown. And so, Felicia, that is an honest answer. Like, my husband and I, we spend a lot of time together. We do things a lot together, but not in a sense where I can't run to the store without him, or he can't run and go play golf without me, or I can't go on a trip without him, and he can't. Like, that's when it becomes toxic to me. That's when it becomes unhealthy to me. There's nothing like seeing two people in a relationship, but you see that they are allowed to have the individualism. I have seen spouses literally that could not allow their person to go to work without them. Like, I've seen the extreme. That's all I'm going to say. So that is not a healthy relationship, because the truth of the matter is, if your spouse wants to cheat or do anything, they're going to do it whether you're there or not. So you need breathing room. As much as we spent, like, literally we do just about everything together, but he understands and respects that I need my space. I understand that he needs his space. Thankfully, we're not in tight quarters. He can go downstairs. I can come in here. I can go in our room or whatever. And that doesn't mean that you're mad at each other. That doesn't mean that, there's problems in the relationship. You just need time. If he wants to go to the store, shopping, whatever, that's right. It's all about trust. And that's the bottom line. And it goes both ways. But again, we're talking about healthy relationships. So in a healthy relationship, there has to be some sense of trust, even when the trust has been broken. And so even when the trust has been broken in a healthy relationship, those couples know how to navigate to rebuild that trust. It probably won't take overnight, but you're talking about basically two healthy individuals that are trying to navigate life together. But back to my original point, a lot of you just chimed in. I see your comments. I'm going to start reading them. But again, yes, alone time is very important. And again, I can only say what I know of myself and other people that have longevity in their marriages. That doesn't make us any better or whatever. It's just but by the grace of God that we are here. Hey, Melissa and everyone, God bless you all. God bless you too, Dorothy. We are in this conversation about healthy marriages, healthy relationships. Hey, never been married. Stopped dating at the age of 46. It's been 11 years now. No kids, but I don't get that lonely and be bothered with anybody's son. I'm clueless. You know what, Deborah? And that's your right. That's your choice. I've been, all I know is marriage as far as my adult years go. So just as all I know is marriage, you're the same. You're the polar opposite of that. All you know is being single. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think that if you desire to get married, then one day you'll move towards that and you'll have that, but in talking about healthy relationships, what I was talking about as you guys were coming in was comparing your relationships to other people. I can't expect my husband to be a certain person. What I can say is, you know what? I like the way, I'll use Russell Wilson as an example. Everybody wants to know what's this prayer that Sierra prayed and everything else. We're going to use them as the foundation of the conversation. One thing I always say is we really do have to be careful because we don't know what Russell Wilson and Sierra are doing behind closed doors. We just know what their public persona is so romanticized and different things like that. So whatever it is that I can look at and I can kind of judge, I can say, you know what, have you ever thought about doing blah, 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 blah. If my husband is not about that and that's not his personality and all that, I'm wasting my time because like someone said yesterday, you're not going to change anybody. No one's going to want to change unless they want to change. And that's also a part of a solid, healthy relationship. Accepting the person for who they are, period. Can you accept your future spouse or the person that you're with for who they are? If you can't do that, then that's going to cause friction. I think in healthy relationships, they accept each other for who they are. My husband knows I like alone time. I like to take naps. I like, YouTube is my thing. He has his stuff. And we come together in the middle to talk and do whatever else we do. But we don't have to be at each other's hip 24/7. April says it's all about trust. And that's the thing, let's see. Yes, there has to be trust and communication with one another. Allison, that's really pretty much the foundation. You can be married for 20 some odd years without trust, but what is the quality of the marriage? One thing that's really funny when I look at some of these memes that are going around on Facebook and stuff, and they're comparing what a real man is and what a real man does and what a real woman should do and what a real woman, and no paper plates and no this and yes to that and all this other stuff. And me and my husband and people probably that have longevity in marriage, we probably are like, you know what, marriage, that has nothing to do with what a real person does. For an example, my husband is not necessarily the blue collar handyman type person. He is going to pay to have someone get it done. I am the one who has a tool set. He's getting better. I will say that he is getting better, but the thing is, he'll pay somebody in a hot minute. But me, if I know I can do it, I'm going to do it. I don't mess with electricity, but I'll figure out everything else. And so someone else will say, you know what, her husband don't fix stuff around the house. He just pays somebody. That's his business, but that doesn't make him less than a husband or whatever. My point is, if you go into a marriage thinking he has to be able to fix things around the house, romanticized, going by what TV says he should be and all of that. He should be able to do this. He should be able to do that. You're going to be sadly mistaken, because we're not television actors and sitcom actors. You're into a marriage for its individualism. So you cannot compare. My husband and I remember one time, we were at a marriage retreat for our church, and all the guys went golfing or something like that. And so my husband had a tea time, and so he was going to go golfing. Well, the ladies felt like, you know what, let's go either be and watch the guys, or and another group was like, let's go shopping. Well, me being the person that I am, I was like, no, I'm going back to my room and I'm taking a nap. If you know me, I'm going to get my naps in. And so they thought it was so strange, and they actually thought like something was wrong with me, because number one, I didn't want to go and trail behind him, but because I can't stand golf or whatever. I'll go as long as I can drive the little cart and drink. Other than that, my husband knows that. So he accepts that about me. He doesn't say, you know what, you should be the wife that wants to go to the 18 holes and do that with me. I'm not. And he has accepted that. The flip side of that is he also understands there may be times when we're out of town or whatever, where I've had enough and I need a nap. He doesn't say, you know what, wife so-and-so over there, she gets down with the get down, so why aren't you? It's all about individualism. You can glean things from other marriages, but the bottom line is, for a solid relationship, you have to allow people to be who they are, period. Is there room for growth? Absolutely. I'm not saying that, how people are like, you know what, that's just who I am. No, that's not a good thing. Because if you need to grow and you need to change, absolutely you need to grow and change. And that's a separate conversation. I'm talking about just personality traits, and even some behaviors that it is what it is. In that moment, that is the person that you're married to. Now, if you need to have a future conversation, that's something that you need to do. Royalty, hey, I love your commentary. Thank you for stopping in. Trina says, hey Trina, what's up? April says, hey, that's so true. It is true. It's what I know. Again, I'm only speaking, we've been married not quite 30 years, but I know people that have had longevity in marriage. Hopefully, Joanne Matthews, she was in last night. She said she was over 40 years of marriage. Someone else that got this conversation started, she was over 30 years of marriage. So there has to be a common ground with all of this. One thing, let's go here. That's how I felt about Jay-Z and Beyonce. You just never know the issues that they're going through. You never know. You never know. And the truth of the matter is, if I can be transparent, if the relationship is worth its weight in gold, they may be sticking together through thick and thin, but you have no idea what the struggles are behind closed doors. So be careful saying, I want this relationship, or you guys look like the perfect couple, or whatever. When people say that to my husband and I don't take that. I don't accept that as a compliment. I let them know, thank you. And thank you for the compliment. But at the same time, it takes work. Marriage is work, period. So, again, I also learned that what works for one marriage doesn't work for everybody's marriage. Thank you, Felicia. That was my point that I was making. What works for one marriage doesn't work for another. And so that's why the memes and all this stuff that's creating the standard is so problematic. People think, oh, husbands are supposed to be this way. husbands are supposed to be that way. Like some of the memes that describe some of these people's husbands, that's not my experience. I don't have to ask my husband to babysit. I don't have to, because number one, they're his children. He's not babysitting anything. Like, and he wants to watch our kids. I don't have to say just weird things that I see in memes, and they're just automatically saying a wife should do this, and paper plates, you know, serving your husband on paper plates is going to make him less than a man. And listen, my husband doesn't care. We have good china and we have paper plates, but using paper plates is not going to ruin my marriage. If it ruins your marriage, then I'm just going to question the how solid it is. Things. Hey, Melissa, great evening. Thank you, Jazzy. Jazzy, good to see you again. If you're going on a road trip and your partner tells a friend and his family that they can ride with you without asking your thought or opinion, how do you feel? So if you're going on a road trip and your partner tells a friend and his family that they can ride with you without asking your thoughts and opinion, how do you feel? Well, here's the truth of the matter. That road trip was just a symptom. He's been doing that. So your cousin, since, you know, so Vanilla and I know things that I need to ask him, can you know, and I know things, we've been married long enough where I know I need to call him first and say, hey, you know, so-and-so, whatever. He knows me. He knows I'm a very private person. I like my comfort in no matter in my own home, as well as in the car or whatever. So my point is, if someone invited their partner, you know, their friends or whatever on this road trip and didn't check in with you, I think that that's, first of all, not the first time that that's probably happened. But number two, that would be weird. But how would I feel in that moment? Let's pretend my husband did do it. That would be, I can't even think about what I would do in the sense, because that's not how he is. But let me pretend. If he did that, there will be a conversation. And depending on who this friend is, if I tolerate, so let's see, tells a friend and his family, I'm gonna have a conversation. I'm the type, I'm gonna pull him aside. Hopefully they're not there, because they're gonna tell by my face that you didn't say that. And just depending on what the circumstance is, whatever. No, first of all, he will know. I don't do the silent treatment. My face tells it all. I'm going to have a conversation. Why did you do that? And knowing me, we have two cars, depending on where we're going. He may be in that car with them and those friends, and I'm in my car. No lie, that's probably what I'll do. But the conversation will happen in that moment, and then we'll have to problem solve together. Even if it means he has to go back to that person and say, you know what, I misspoke. So let's figure out a plan B. And 9 times out of 10, you know, it just depends on the situation. If they're stuck or whatever, I'm not saying that they can't get a ride, but I feel like ultimately someone doing something like that is inconsiderate, period. So I'm not quite sure that that's something that's a new behavior. That's just, it's the road trip today. It's bringing someone home tomorrow. Perfect example, real live example. Right now, the air conditioner tech is here. Right before I went on live, my husband, the guy came. I knew he was coming or whatever. And so my husband yelled upstairs and he said, hey, Missy, the air conditioner guy is on his way upstairs. That's just what we do. But that's a part of communication, and that's respect. So if your partner does something that you feel is inconsiderate, pouting, attitude, all this other stuff does not help. Communicate, hey, I didn't like that. And when you did that, that made me feel like this. So in the future, I'd appreciate it, a heads up. Not against marriage, just never found Mr. Right and refused to cuddle with the lie to prove it. I got somebody in society. Just saying. All is well. If it's meant to be one day, it will be. Deborah, that is so good, because a lot of people are unfortunately cuddling with a lot of people, but it's not a solid person. So like you said, you're not against marriage. It's just the fact that you're not going to be with anybody just to prove to society that you can get somebody. Completely understand that. I think the worst thing you can do is to complain about your husband or wife when you knew the certain thing. Yeah. I can't even get it out. Allison, Come here. You're so right. I think the worst thing you can do is complain about your husband or wife when you knew the certain things about them before you got married. That's a mouthful, Allison. We could drop the mic on that. Here's the thing. A lot of problems occur after the I do is because during that honeymoon dating phase, females, males ignore whatever red flag. So here's the thing. If your spouse has an annoying laugh before you get married, but you just brush it off because they fine and because this, that, and the other, that laugh is going to annoy you later. At some point when you're done being in the clouds, that laugh is going to annoy the crap out of you. If your spouse does not have healthy bathing habits, and before you get married, you're just like, oh my God, but his bank account is fat and he treats me nice, but oh boy, we stink. What makes you think after you get married, he's going to change that? And then you want to complain. That happens so much. And what, to your point, Allison, the other part is, for an example, like we could use Coco and Latrice and other relationships, honestly. When the breakup happens, that's when you find out the gold teeth are chipped, he's dirty, he's this, he's that. But you were with him when all of that was going on. So that's low down dirty. When the breakup happens, then all of a sudden, all this stuff I want to reveal about how horrible it is and everything else. But most certainly, Allison, that comment is absolutely on point. You cannot ignore the red flags, ladies. And even if it's not necessarily a huge red flag, be careful when you're dating and when you're getting to know someone and whatever they say, whatever it is, oh, I got a little son, or I got this, or this happened, or I was a felon, or whatever. And then something ticks in your stomach. That's like, hey, we're not really liking that. But a lot of times we ignore it because, well, he's treating me nice or whatever. Trust me, it's going to come back up in the relationship because that nudge in your gut is telling you that's not safe. We don't want that, or we're not cool with that. But you don't deal with it before you get married. You get married thinking it's going to go away, or, oh, it's not that bad, or whatever. But once you're in that house, I'm talking a traditional marriage. Once you're in that marriage, it's work. And so not only is just work because it's two of you coming together, but now you've this baggage that you ignored, whatever that is. And I think that's what makes people who have really, generally speaking, because a long marriage, being married for a long time does not necessarily mean it's a healthy relationship. You have to really, really, really know people these days to say, you know what, they have a good relationship. Other than that, the most that you could do is say, you know what, I like the way they handled that situation. I like the way she talks to him. I like the way he talks to her, or whatever. I knew a couple where you would have sworn that they were sworn enemies. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't even think the way they spoke to each other that they had any type of love in their relationship. They literally talked to each other like they were two people, like two friends. And two friends in a slang, like, nah, dog, you know, that whole thing. And I used to sit there and go, this is weird. Like there was no softness about the relationship. But again, I can't say that it wasn't a formidable relationship because it wasn't mine. It's just my husband ain't talking to me like this. Now, pillow talk and we sitting and gossiping or whatever, he'll throw a child at child, you know, whatever, and I may throw one at him. But I'm talking about everyday interactions. I can't judge that. Well, only thing I can do is judge it. But at the same time, I can't use my marriage as someone else's measuring stick. Absolutely, Allison Hill. So, Allison, you got a lot of support for that comment. For me, pouting and silent treatment means that the other person is not willing to talk about the situation or compromise. Absolutely. Have I pouted? Yeah. Do you have attitude? Yeah. All of that. But you can't stay in that moment. Of course, it's a natural reaction when something is going on to respond physically, whether it's the silent treatment, the arms folding, and everything else like that. But one thing that we learn to do is, number one, not let the silent treatment last forever. I'm not huge on silent treatment as I've gotten older. I don't have time for that. Let's talk about it or whatever. However, there are some times where I don't want to talk or he don't want to talk in that moment. That doesn't make him evil or like he doesn't want to solve things, or it doesn't make me, evil and I don't want to solve things. It's just in that moment, you got to take a breather. However that means, however long that means. Sometimes of course, if it's him trying to talk to me, he'll say, you know what? When you're ready to talk, let me know. Sometimes, I may be ready to talk, but I'm yelling or I got an attitude. Then he's like, nope, come back when you're ready to talk. And it's the same thing with him. If he's still snarky or silent or whatever, you know what? When you're ready to talk, you just let me know. That may take a day. It may take 2 days. But guess what? We're still talking about dinner, the kids, the this, the that, the other. So there's still a level of forgiveness that's taking place even in the heat of an argument. So yeah, it does mean that they're not willing to discuss it, but that's not always a bad thing. Because we do have to allow each other to work through whatever feelings. If something really, really hurts your feelings deeply, you have to allow people to get to the point where it's like, to at least for me, I have to get in my head, you know what? He probably meant it, but I need to tell him how it came across, blah, 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 blah. Or I have to tell him, you know what? I didn't mean it that way, whatever, but he still got to work through however that made him feel. So that goes to the individualism. If you want a lasting relationship, if you want a relationship that's going to go through all of that, you have to allow each other to, we can't respond to stuff the same way because we're not robots. We're not the same people. He doesn't respond. Okay. So again, going back to the part of the conversation where we were talking about growth. So 20-year-old Missy would argue. I was ready, always ready. Probably still ready now. Don't have a problem. But the truth of the matter is 48-year-old Melissa, really, I don't have time for it. I don't have time for the fuss and the yelling. I just don't. But 20-year-old me, 30, absolutely. But now I just feel like the yelling, the screaming and all that is just really annoying and it's a waste of time and it's not productive conversation. Sometimes, you feel like that's what you need to do. And so flip it over, 20-year-old, my husband, I used to go through all these dramatics and he used to just sit there and be like, you finished? Are you done? You done? Oh, you're not? Okay. And so now, older him, he got time. So again, you can't respond in a long relationship when you've been together for a very long time. Because remember, we got married at like 19, 20. And so we've really just grown up with each other. And so the way we responded when we were in our 20s, we laugh at it now. I'll give y'all a story time later about responding in arguments and just acting a fool. That's so true. Great point, Allison. That's why I'm not here for him calling her out for farting and spitting. He was with her. Exactly, Shannon. I don't want to hear it. And so I think part of a long lasting marriage also is we recognize what happens in the house stays in the house. It's house business. Everybody can't be in your relationship. And that's on facts. We got to stick it out and tough it out and figure this out for ourselves. And I kind of hate to say it that way because it also gives the implication that people that have divorced almost like they quit. I don't think so. That's not what I'm saying. I'm also not saying that just because someone's been married 30, 40 years, that they have a good relationship. Absolutely not. That's why we see people 30 years, all of a sudden they're getting a divorce. No, but that's a good point. Don't point out the farting and the this and the that and all this other stuff when you were laying next to that person, So yeah, you're speaking real. I have been married to my husband for almost 20 years. Exactly. We 25, Mrs. Queen E, please chime in. Because again, we have some single women on here. We have people that have not been married as long. And my thing is, it's so romanticized. But I'm going to tell you straight up, y'all, it takes work to be married Nowadays, old days used to be days and all this other stuff. It takes work. Right, Shannon? That's what make ours work. Keep people out our business. Absolutely. If we get into it, I'm not running to Facebook. I'm not running. Like, I don't understand that. That's not my diary. That's not my diary. That's not that. None of that's going to help. I don't even send him the most I would do is and leave a comment if this ever happens to you. You ever be in a situation and then all of a sudden memes start popping up about that situation? He may get an inbox with a video that talks about what he did or said or whatever, but I'm not on Facebook sending subs about my husband. Men should da 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 or blah 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 blah. I'm not doing that. The other thing that I am really good about and I think is important is I'm authentic. I'm not pretending my husband is something that he's not. If he, thank God he's always had a job. He's always been a provider. He's always been the absolutely best dad that he could be. And I don't have to make that up. That's nothing that I have to pretend to work up, to paint him to be. Ladies, if you have someone that you have that one inkling of thing that you're ashamed of to the point where you got to act like he's this businessman or he's a provider and he's not, and all this other stuff, that's a red flag. We saw this with our friends who's our case study. She painted all this stuff, he works for me and da, 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 da. Then when they break up, he's a low life, he's a bum, he spent all my money and all this other stuff. Make it make sense. If we seek quality relationships, it's okay to kind of wait till the man develops into what you want him to develop in, or be straight up. I bought that outfit because he can't afford to buy his own drawers. But don't expect the marriage to be healthy if that's what you're doing, but you're also pretending. It's not going to work. A lot of work. So on to the work. I think there's a difference between working and struggling. My marriage is not a struggle, but it's a lot of work. Like I said, when you get married, whatever age you get married, if you are someone like me who got married in their 20s, I am a completely different person that I am in my 40s, almost 50s. So can you imagine if he is responding to me, treating me, relating to me as 20-year-old Melissa, he will have a huge problem because I've matured in some ways. Some things that I used to trip about, I don't even trip about no more. Stuff that I learned, I use those tools. So that's the work. The work is constantly keeping it together. That's the bottom line. Especially, I just had a visual. Marriage is like a juggler trying to juggle, because you're juggling. You're juggling you're juggling your spouse, you're juggling their family, you're juggling your family, you're juggling kids, you're juggling work, you're juggling society. Like, you just juggling. And as you're juggling, someone's trying to give you some water. And you're trying to keep everything going, plus enjoy some water for refreshment. And so it takes the perfect timing to know when to stop, grab water, drink, and keep going. That's marriage. I always say, if you meet a perfect marriage that has been past 15 years and never been through anything, especially 20 to 30 years, please let me know. Like, email me what your secret is, because you need to sell that and market it and everything else. I do not know one marriage, healthy or whatever, that has been people that have been married for a very long time that has not been through something. And when I say been through something, we all do not have the same story. I know people that have had to deal with babies out in the marriage, outside the marriage, finances, sickness, all this other stuff. But when you're married, those things can really throw a wrench in your relationship. And so when you have these people that try to put on this persona like they have it all together, and here's the difference. I don't pretend that I have it all together in my marriage. I just know to keep my marriage private. So there's a big difference. The fact that I'm telling you, anybody that has been in a relationship that hasn't gone through anything tells you that I've been through some things. So that ought to tell you right there, I'm not trying to be Miss Perfect with the perfect marriage. Absolutely not. We are absolutely friends. We do everything recreational, different things together. He's my travel buddy, he's my confidant, all that stuff. But also that takes time. That takes time. Because 20-year-old married to my husband, when we were younger, he didn't understand that, hey, she needs the rest. Sometimes my iron was low. Sometimes it was just the fact that my personality, I love taking naps. And so I need a nap. Of course, if I'm working or teaching or whatever, I don't sit up there and nod out in the middle of the classroom. But I don't mind a good nap when I'm tired. He didn't understand that at first, because he's a Army, go, 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 go. So to him, he thought I was lazy. And he would be like, why do you need this nap? Or, you could be doing blah, 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 blah. Well, as he got older and matured, and really understood, like, hey, her cycle's coming on. She may be tired. That's that. She is anemic. She might need a nap because of that. Different things or her temperament. She just likes to take naps, and that's okay. That doesn't mean she's lazy. She's still taking care of business and everything else. But it's a level of maturity and understanding throughout that. So yeah, if anybody tells you that they just are perfect and they've never been through anything, they are lying to you. They are lying to you, especially if they've been married 25 to 30 years. Oh, y'all been through some stuff. Might not be the same thing. May not be, because everybody wants to jump to cheating and all that. It don't have to be that. Don't have to be that. There's some way more devastating stuff that can really throw a monkey wrench in your marriage than cheating. Cheating can. If we take Kevin Samuel's advice, no Black woman is worthy of being a wife in his book. To be honest with you, I have not listened to him. I do hear a couple of his stuff, and a lot of people are saying he's problematic. But you know what? Black women are worthy to be a wife. That's all I'm gonna say on that. We all know he's full of it, from what I understand. Yes, girl, we all been through something. We all been through something. And guess what? Something is still gonna be something. The something changes, like, sometimes it's not even your something. Sometimes you'll go through, your kids will grow up. They'll make decisions that will actually cause such tension that it's tension between you and your spouse. So the something is not always you doing something or your husband doing something or your spouse or whatever. You just have to understand that to keep the marriage going, to keep the fight going, because especially nowadays, you have to fight to stay sane and stay married. Like, it is what it is. But in fighting, I think that, like I said earlier, it's not a struggle. There's a difference between fighting and warfaring, for those of you that are spiritual, and really saying, no, not happening. I'm going to set a different legacy. And that's the thing. That's another point. My husband and myself, we both come from single parent homes. Father was absent. And so we are a 2-parent home. We have been, and that is a lot of who we are and who we choose to build. Does it mean he's perfect? I'm perfect? Absolutely not. But we have really tried to be committed, and prayerfully, knock on wood, we will remain committed to break that cycle of single parenthood and breaking up and all this other stuff, and just really lay the foundation of a legacy to say, you know what, we're going to stay married. My brother and his wife have been married. They have a year on us. So that, hopefully, prayerfully for them as well, they will be married. But on his side, there's not very many people, chime in, Keandra, that have been married. I can't think of anybody, but one uncle that has been married as long as we have. And so, not as a point of pride or that we think we're better than everybody, because we had to fight to get to this point. And not to this point, but to every point. It's a decision. It's a conscious decision to say, we're going to work through this. We're going to fight, even if it's through the mud, we're going to work through it. Sometimes working through it means just not dealing with it in that moment. We got to, again, back to my original point, we have to do what's best for you and your spouse. And sometimes not dealing with it today, let's deal with it on Saturday. Could be the best thing for your marriage. Hey, Toya, I see you. Marriage became pointless the day royalty stopped using it as a way to gain land. Okay. That's a good point. That's a good point. If I understand what you're saying. So we know historically land and marriages, that kind of put you in a higher tier in society. If you were married, if you had land, and that's really how it was exchanged. So what Ariman, I think Ariman is saying, marriage became obsolete or unimportant when we let go of those traditions and those standards of society to say, you know what, now it's not necessarily valued. It's I don't know, it's kind of fluid whether it's valued or not as far as marriage is concerned. But I think that there's a large fraction of society that still wants to have good marriages, that still want to remain marriage. Like, I love being married. I as much as I look at single people, I don't look and salivate and be like, oh my God, that's the life. No, but I also encourage single people, live your life, do your thing. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But the flip side of that is, I love the fact that we have created this family. You know, we have our 5 kids plus my cousin that I'm raising, so that's like 6. So we have our kids, we have a family. We don't have a white picket fence, but we may as well have a white picket fence. And so, is it perfect? Absolutely. It is not perfect. Like, people think that my family, we need a reality TV show because it's just really that shot out. But y'all ain't gonna be sending me hate mail. But no, it's just a comical, you know, like I like to tell people, we're a mixture of the Cosby Show and Roseanne. That's just what it is. Hey sis, never been married, but here to learn and listen. Just woke up from my nap. Listen, it's all about naps. So that's not what Kevin says. He just tells bubbleheads to be realistic and stop trying to live like scripted TV relationships. Exactly. And that's what I was saying. We can't live our lives based on what you see on Real Housewives and what you see on television and having this romanticized idea of what these relationships are. That's why people quit marriages. That's why people fail, because you have this unrealistic expectation of your spouse. Oh, well, my husband should be like, you know, I don't know, whoever's on Housewives, and he has to do this and he has to do that. And that man is just doing whatever he needs to do in his lane to provide and everything else. I don't know what's going on with the notifications. I was just talking about that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yes, I'm correct. So that's a family member chiming in, just talking about the longevity in marriages in both sides of our family. And so my brother and I, we've kind of broken the chain of divorce and everything. And prayerfully, knock on wood, we will continue to do that. And on his side, I think we're the only ones that have been married that long. Again, longevity in marriage does not mean quality. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is, if you have that longevity, there's still a level of commitment to the fight. Again, fight doesn't mean struggle, because I don't struggle to stay married. But I do understand that I have to warfare spiritually. I have to pray. I have to really constantly change the way I'm thinking, make sure I'm not putting unrealistic expectations on him. Make sure he's not putting unrealistic expectations on me. It's not going to be, you know, stars and sunshine and all this stuff all the time. It's just not. And that's unrealistic. Love you who you want, how you want. I just feel like the government being involved in people's relationships is ridiculous. You got to expound on that. I don't know how the government is involved in people's relationships other than same-sex marriages. And unfortunately for me right now, I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about male-female relationships in the sense of the traditional sense of relationships. Now, if we want to talk about that, we can do that in another day. But this conversation stemmed from the one from yesterday, talking about toxic relationships. And I love the fact that a lot of the viewers, a lot of my subscribers chimed in and said, hey, I'm in a good relationship. Let's talk about this. Enough with them two fools. Let's talk about a long-lasting relationship. I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. I didn't get a notification. Yeah, again, I don't know what's going on with the notifications, but it'll be here. All I have to do after this live is done, it'll be on private for about 4 minutes till I upload the thumbnail, and then you'll be able to rewatch the beginning. But just as a recap, because again, I don't want to hold you. We've really been having great conversation. I do want you to chime in, Joanne, because you are one of the people that have been married for almost 40 years. A couple of things that I said, and if you don't know, the Joanne Matthews that you see right here, she actually was at my wedding, and she spoke at my wedding, and she spoke into my husband and I. So again, I always like to tell you guys, when you're online and you're on people's channel, try to get verification of what these people are saying. There's a lot of people in my chat that actually know me personally. So when I'm asking for reminding you guys that you could super chat or super sticker or whatever, you understand that what I'm saying is true. Like, she really is married. She does have 5 kids. She is raising her cousin. Like, there's, and we talked about this before. It's just a caveat, because I'm really concerned that there's a lot of scamming going on online with people and their money. And so look at it as if I'm saying something that's blessing you or whatever, drop them stars. I'm just kidding. Don't drop stars, but just remember, we have super chats and super stickers just to shout out and say thank you or whatever. But you don't have to. Absolutely. My mom just says, you know what? You never mention your super chats. And I don't. I keep forgetting. So I just wanted to say that. But to recap, a couple of things that I said, Joanne, because I really want you to chime in, is number one, make sure that we're not comparing our relationships to other people. What works for one marriage may not work for another. You know, and we didn't get on this. In the Black church, it has been my experience. I don't know how it is now. Ooh, April, you so wrong. April says, drop them stars. In the Black church. So story time. My husband and I, we met in, quote, a Black church. And I find now that I'm on the many years on the other side of marriage, I don't think that especially the Black church prepares their young men and women for solid, really good relationships. And when I say that, I remember sitting as a single person in church, and what was told, what was always preached is, you know what? You got to find your Boaz. Boaz, Boaz, Boaz. You got to find your Boaz. And you know what? If you don't have a Boaz, then there's something wrong with you because you're not married. So to be a Christian female in a church, and I just use Black church because that was my experience when I got married. To be in church, it's like, okay, I have this pressure. I'm coming to work and I'm coming to church to hear the word, but in the back of my mind, I'm looking for who this man is, even though they also tell you don't look and just wait on him. The flip side of that is you have this man who's going to church, and he's instead of him concentrating on the word and everything else, he's looking for his Ruth. Now, if you don't know the reference of the Bible, whatever, you'll get it. Just may the Lord help you get it. But my point is, I can't say without having years later conversations and counseling and different things like that, solid input into what takes a marriage. However, I will never forget what Joanne said at our marriage. At our reception, always laugh and always remain friends. I never, ever forgot that. And I remember what she said. But the thing is, what are we telling each other in church? Because that's also a unrealistic expectation. Because I'm gonna tell you story time, perfect example. Basically, what I'm saying is, when I got married, I thought this man was near Jesus perfect because he was a Christian or is a Christian, and we married in church. So he has to be perfect. He's not going to complain that I didn't make the bed. He's not going to complain that whatever. He's not going to hurt me in any type of way. And I got to be the submissive wife and this, that, and the other, whatever. That is the wrong message to send. That is so wrong. Christian, non-Christian, and everything else, we are not perfect. You are marrying a human being. So in marrying that human being, it's all cute in the beginning and all that. But the bottom line is, I'm going to disappoint him. I have disappointed him, and I probably will disappoint him in the future. He has disappointed me, and he will probably disappoint me in the future. The question is, The difference is when you're talking about a marriage that's going to last, what do you do when that difficulty happens? Number one, we talked about it, communication. Communication is key. Honest communication. Without the gimmicks, the schemes, I'm supposed to be like this, he's supposed to be like that. Another thing we talked about is these memes talking about what a man does and what a female does. Like I said, I'm the person that fixes stuff. My husband will outsource it and have people doing it. He's not doing it. He's the bougiest person that I know. He's gonna get somebody to pay for it. He's not doing it. But me personally, I'm gonna change the belt in the on the washing machine. I'm gonna get under that hood and figure out how to change that light bulb or whatever. But so if someone looking at the marriage, they go, oh, he's not a man, you know, because he does that. My husband can clean circles around me when he wants to. But you know, if someone say, oh my goodness, you know, he shouldn't be able to clean, he cooks. I used to cook all the time, but now he cooks. He enjoys cooking. Okay. I'm so glad he enjoys cooking now. But so you have to let your marriage be what it's going to be for you, period, for not for anybody else. You guys are two individual people. And again, I'm not talking about struggling to get through those 20, 30, 40 years. You know, and sometimes it is a struggle. Sometimes it will be a struggle. I'm not going to lie to you, but there's a difference between struggling and fighting together. That's one of the things that my husband and I, we really, really had to get to know, because you're talking about two alpha people. So he's an alpha male, I'm an alpha female. And so we're very competitive. We're very alpha. Okay. And so one of the things that we had to realize 10, 15 years ago is we're on the same freaking team. So there's no need to fight. There's no need to compete. There's no need to be ashamed of whatever it is that you're going through, whatever. That transparency is what keeps marriages lasting and enduring. Being able to say, I'm sorry. And we laugh and we joke, even in the most trying times and everything. I will crack a joke and we will bust out laughing. And he'd be like, I don't want to laugh with you. And I'm like, well, you're going to laugh today. And we just laugh or whatever. That goes back to the original statement. Be friends. You have to be friends. You know, hot and heavy is good, but it's nothing like being your spouse's friend. Love you, your channel, as well as your openness. Thank you for all you do. Gotta go cook for my mini me. Be well. You too. Thank you for your commentary. Thank you. April cutting up talking about drop them stars. I absolutely agree with you. Each marriage is unique. Absolutely. Amen, says Trina. We went by the traditional roles at first. Then we figured out what works for us. And it has changed throughout the years. We decided not to compete with each other. That was a huge, huge thing when you're talking about two alpha people. And I imagine in your marriage, because I know you're definitely an alpha female, and I know Sir is just as about it. He's a man's man for sure. And so when you're talking about traditional roles, when you have two alpha people like my husband and I, submission's gonna look a lot different. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna tell him whatever, but I have an opinion and I'm gonna say my opinion. And if you go by the traditional roles of the church and how they paint this picture, it's almost like, you know what, you're not supposed to say anything. You really ain't supposed to have a thought. And that just didn't work for us. That didn't work for us at all. And so again, this highlight is someone who has 40 years of marriage. She can agree. Like, I think 20 is a good sounding board, but we still have so much learning and so much growing. When you're young and in your 20s, you don't even consider the emotional and chemical and hormonal things that could affect your marriage. That only comes to a thought usually when you're older, because that's when those hormones and everything start showing up and you're like, oh, okay, that's what's happening right there. But it's still a thing in your 20s. So this is such a great conversation. So anyway, let me tell you, I told you I would tell y'all a story while there's some people on here. So just talking about the immaturity in marriage and just how you handle things. We laugh at this story now. We have laughed at this story for many, many years. It's the number one, it's our, how to say, party joke. Like, we have to tell this story. Every party we go to and everybody's like, oh my God, you know, whatever, get together, whatever. So my husband and I, we were just fresh married, probably within a month or whatever. And so again, we're talking about growing, and we're talking about how to else. So anyway, when we first got married, we used to live in, he was in the military and everything. That's not the point. But I just want to give y'all a picture. We used to live in an apartment, and in the apartment, you know how you have apartments and there's buildings, there's like a square of buildings, and then down in the middle is the courtyard, and it's grass and stuff like that. So we lived in one of the upstairs. We lived upstairs, facing the courtyard. And so down below, there's a railing. So we lived on the second floor. And so when you walked out our door, there was a railing, and then over the railing. So here we are. And so we were in the park. We weren't off in the cut on the corner over there. We were literally right here in front of the courtyard. And so we had all these other buildings. The rest of the square can see my house and the door. So I can't tell you what we were arguing about. I can't tell you. I don't know. And when I say I can't tell you, I don't know. This was literally almost 30 years ago. But whatever it, okay, I'm back. Okay, I'm back. So whatever it was. So again, we're talking about immaturity to maturity. He made me mad. So I literally took everything out the closet and threw it over the railing into the courtyard to the second floor in the middle of the freaking apartment. So I'm talking suits, everything. So as I'm throwing stuff, he's like, oh, you gonna throw my suits? So he goes to my closet and starts throwing stuff over the railing. Now here you are, two Christian young kids, married and everything else. So again, that expectation, because if you would have told me 3 months prior when we were dating or whatever, this Christian dude is gonna be throwing my stuff over the railing, and he's telling, you would have told him, he probably wouldn't have believed you. So so we going back and forth. Oh, my shoes. Oh, my shoes. So that he grabbed his shoes. So I'm talking, I threw everything. So then back then, and he still does, he collects coins, and I had his change jar, and that was threw it right over the railing. He said, and all I remember now is, oh, my change. So and so we're going, everything that I do, he went back. Y'all, the iron was over there, the ironing board, like we cleared our whole apartment. It was in the courtyard. And after it was all said and done, we just felt so stupid because our house was down in the courtyard. Oddly enough, no one came out their apartment. No one called the police or anything. We just was sitting up there looking stupid with all our house, all our stuff, the iron, everything in the middle of the courtyard. And again, no neighbors came out. No one called the police. And we were sitting there like, okay, now that we've cleared the house, we were like, this is so stupid. Now, again, this was 30 years ago. I don't know how it ended, but what ended up happening is we had to go downstairs and do the walk of shame to bring all our stuff upstairs. To and I think at one point I think at one point I picked up the TV. He was like, no, not the TV. But I threw the remote, everything. And so we laugh about that now. Number one, because that is not something that we would do, but just talking about who you are at 20, how you handle things at 20 is not going to be the same thing that you're going to do at 40, 50, 60 in longevity. It takes a process. It takes work. It took us going through that and saying, you know what? Because I used to throw things. And so he would say, you know what, you really need to stop throwing stuff because we always got to replace it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so I had to learn communication and wanting to communicate because these tantrums were not working. It wasn't him. It was me. I need to learn to communicate without going through the tantrums and throwing things over the railing. I mean, we was going back. Our entire house was in that courtyard. But what the moral and the point of the story is, when you look back 30 years later, it's like, what was that? That didn't solve a thing. It didn't solve a thing. We literally destroyed our own things. The neighbors probably was peeking out. So now you got people in your business, and it didn't solve whatever the original situation, whatever it was, what it was. So you learn how to communicate, you learn how to get through these things, as humorous as it is. Joanne thought that story was funny. Yes. Sorry I missed the beginning. Visiting family in Montgomery. Brenda from Mobile. Hey, Brenda, I'm divorced, but I have sisters and brothers that have been married for 30, 40 years. Brenda, that is amazing. And I love the fact that, you know, even though you're divorced, you don't necessarily look down on marriage. The fact that you are promoting and or celebrating your siblings' 40-year-old marriage. That is awesome. That is really awesome. Enjoy your family in Mobile, girl. I mean, Montgomery. Hello, everyone in the live. So if you're just joining in or you're reaching the tail end, we have had a great conversation about marriage. This conversation was a request and it stemmed from yesterday's conversation. We were talking about toxic relationships, and someone chimed in and they were like, well, what about healthy relationships? And so I was like, okay, well, let's talk about marriages. And so that's what this conversation has been about. It was a great conversation. You know, our bottom line is that number one is there's a difference between a struggle and there's a difference between hard work. Marriage is hard work and it's constant work if you want to grow and not grow apart from each other. Growing apart, absolutely not. It will probably happen at least one time in a marriage, growing apart. And that doesn't mean that you're going to grow apart for years. It doesn't mean that it could be, you know, a week, it could be a month, it could be years that you've grown apart. What could cause you to grow apart? Just life. Sometimes it's the children and their things, and you're just so worried about what they're doing and get them everywhere, and you know, they're little babies and feeding and all this other stuff that you forget, hey, we got to maintain us. And so that's that part. There are people, so let's give advice. There are people. Hey, Melissa, I was married 24 years until my husband passed away in 2017. I love being married. Gertrude, so sorry for your loss, first of all. Second of all, yes, I love marriage. I love being married. And so, absolutely, I don't frown. I don't care what the worst situation is. Yeah. April says that is true about growing apart. It happens. And the thing about it is, growing apart happens so fast. You just wake up and you go, who is this person? Who am I? And how did we get here? And we haven't even talked and connected seriously on an intimate level in a minute. And so you have to really, really, really be intentional about checking in and saying, hey, how is it going? And one thing that we have done, and it may seem extreme, it may be whatever, but you actually write down and say, you know what, today, Thursdays, is date night. We're going to talk about this. We're going to do that. And to be perfectly honest with you, since the pandemic, we've kind of gotten away from that because we spend so much time together. He works from home. I'm home. So, you know, we spend a lot of time together, but even though you're together, that does not mean that you have not grown apart. What do you do when you grow apart? Again, that's that fight to get it back together. And two people have to be committed. Now, here's the next thing. In a long marriage, two people, you're not going to have the same energy all the time. There are times where he had a fight that I didn't have. So he had to carry it. He had to carry the relationship. And there's times where I had to fight more than he did. And then there was times when we both donned our gloves and we was ready. Not to fight each other. I'm talking about to fight life, to carry the marriage, to carry each other. Just different things. Like, you know, some of you guys have dealt with sickness in your marriage, infidelity, depression on either spouse. When you have those things, insecurity, job loss, food insecurity, those are times where sometimes you just don't have the fight to fight for yourself. Like, you need to depend on your spouse to get you to fight for the marriage, to walk you through the marriage and stuff like that. It's like that sometimes. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people quit in that moment. A lot of people quit their marriages in the we've grown apart, especially in those moments, because they don't see an end to how they can come back together. And really the truth of the matter is, we've heard it before, you do what you did to get the person. Sometimes you got to start all over and be like, okay, I'm Melissa, how you doing? I like swimming and cheesecake, or whatever, whatever, you get my point. Or whatever. But that's that fight that I was talking about. Not necessarily a struggle, because the struggle to me is when when you just absolutely don't want to, when you're resisting. Even though your neighbors didn't come out the homes or call the police, trust me, they were watching all the drama. Felicia, I know they were. Trust me, I know they were. And we laugh about it. We laugh about it now. But you couldn't tell us, man, listen, it was the funniest thing. Don't work for me either. Nope. I don't know what worked, but yeah. There were a few times we thought about quitting, but we realized that we are better together. This marriage is now more than just us. Our friendship kept us together. Joanne, you got to make sure that you watch the playback, because I talked about that. Exactly. We, of course, have had moments where we were like, this is stupid. We're done. But we were committed to, number one, the foundation that we have established. We were committed to the fact that we wanted to break the family patterns of divorce. We wanted to be committed because, like you said, that friendship, when times get tough, when you grow apart, when you have those tough times, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, if you are friends as a foundation, that is a good, solid moment to be able to rebuild. Because here's the thing, if we've grown apart, at least we're still friends, because you still have that foundation. And then you could talk about how you go back to being lovers. I love that comment. Absolutely. Like I said, watch the playback. If anyone tells you they've not been through anything, or you've been married over 20, 30 years and you've never thought about calling it quits, again, write it down. So the thought may be there, but you also have to understand, come to an agreement, agree that you're better together. Now, disclaimer, of course, we're not talking about abuse. We're not talking about, something dramatic like a outright misuse. I'm talking about two individual people coming together with whatever issues that they have and meeting and facing the world together, committed to facing the world together. That's the bottom line. So again, I'm not talking about sticking and standing in crazy relationships and stuff like that. I'm talking about two healthy individuals, two unhealthy individuals, however you want to say it, but have the foundation of being a friend and committed to marriage together. Trina, what did I say that made you laugh? What did I say? You are absolutely telling the truth. It's the truth. And I was letting the people know, there isn't a perfect marriage, or else somebody would really have not only a best-selling book, but it would be a best-selling book with longevity like the Bible. And that's just the bottom line. Be wary of people that try to say that they're perfect. That doesn't mean that they have to go around telling their business. That's not what I'm saying. But when someone compliments my husband, when someone compliments us, I don't take the glory for that, because I let people know for sure. Thank you. And of course, depending on the situation, thank you. But in other words, I don't let someone tell me I'm a perfect marriage. No, we are not perfect. We are not perfect. And so be leery of the people that take that as, we know. Be leery of those people, because there is no perfect marriage. There is no marriage that's without a hurdle. It's a hurdle after a different hurdle. Some hurdles are lightweight. Some hurdles are like, okay. And then some hurdles will knock both of y'all off your feet like none other. And then you got to decide, okay, yikes. Okay, we got to rebuild from this. And again, like I said, some of this has nothing to do with what you do or what he does. Sometimes the kids' decisions, your kids can get in trouble. Your kids can go a way that you didn't thought that they would. That will cause friction between you and your spouse. And then you have to regroup and say, hey, we're on the same team. We're on this, because that will, you get to pointing and blaming and, well, remember when you did this? We're on the same team. We're going to fight together. And so those are my points that I like to give people. You know, number one, no marriage is perfect. Number two, stop. I wouldn't advise you looking at someone's marriage and peeking in and going, that is just the perfect situation we got going on there. They're just so perfect. They're not. As much as I admire what appears to be what Russell and Sierra puts out or whatever, they seem to have such great chemistry, that whole thing. No, I can't say that I want that. No way. I want what I'm supposed to have in my husband. Gertrude says that is so true. There's no perfect marriage. And I'm going to end on that note because I think that a lot of people quit too soon because they do think it's supposed to be perfect. They do think, oh, you know, cheating sucks. Misuse and abuse and calling names, all of that sucks. Just anything that comes in your marriage, financial problems, it sucks. You know, your parents having health issues, you're having health issues, that type of thing. All of that sucks. But unfortunately, a lot of times in it sucking, it drives couples apart. In that driving couples apart, they decide that the marriage needs to be over. I hate to say that, you know, people quit on their marriage, because here's the thing. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And I don't want people to think because they got divorced and they're less than me because we figured out how to work through XYZ. It's all about the tools that you have. So hopefully those of you that are on this live, we've helped change your mind about a few things. And those of us that have been married, we just going to keep on pushing along. You single women, you have a standard, absolutely. But a lot of stuff is just absolute fantasy hogwash. Absolutely. You have to define whatever the roles are. If your husband likes to cook, you know, the memes are just out of control for me. A real man would do blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be honest with you. My husband, he don't plan trips and stuff like that. Like, I'm the planner. He'll just say, you know what, I feel like I want to go out of town. And then I plan. But according to these, a real man, a plan a trip and da-da-da-da. He ain't studying that. He just says, you know what, I feel like I want to go out of town this week. I think I want to go to Vegas, make it happen. That doesn't make him less than a romantic, because you have the guy that calls a hotel, that da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's what works in our marriage, right? So again, if I was the type where I would compare him to someone else and say, well, so-and-so's husband, he not only says he wants to go somewhere, he plans it and he does this and does that. Okay. And the flip side of that is, if there is something that you feel like, okay, I wish he did da-da-da-da, communication. You got to communicate that. And sometimes, I'm here to tell you, sometimes you got to communicate it over and over and over and over. And then after you did it that time, you got to text it again. And then you got to send an email. Okay. They're not robots. We're not robots, you know, so it takes work. It takes work. And unfortunately, I think some people just give up too soon. Some people give up when there's that tension, or when they think that the spouse is supposed to do something or whatever. I encourage you guys, you know, if you're married and you're going through a tough time, hang in there. Hopefully something that I said will trigger and let you know, hey, number one, I'm not alone. But then number two, this too shall pass. And that's pretty much how you have to live life, marriage. This too shall pass. It's not always bad. It can't always be bad. Doesn't rain 24/7, but you got to fight to get through it. What happens when the other person doesn't fight? I told you, there have been moments where I didn't have the energy to muster anything else. I was crawling while he was willing to drag me and walk. There's times when he was crawling, I had to drag him and walk. So again, it's relinquishing, getting rid of the fantasy that it's just going to be like Hallmark. It's not. This ain't the Hallmark channel. Not if you want longevity. So chime in if you have anything else to say. If not, we are going to be out of here. This was such a great conversation as usual. I have some really good topics coming up. I think tomorrow I want to talk about colorism. Not even just in the Black community. I was listening to XM radio or something today, and they were talking about colorism and in the Afro-Latino community. And then I started thinking about several YouTubers and people on Facebook that I've heard make different comments, even about their children, their lighter skinned children. And I want a light skinned child, and oh, you're dark as dirt, and all this other stuff. So I think that's what I want. We're going to have a conversation about that. And I have a few other hard hitters coming up. So if you haven't already, make sure you like this video. Like. Share this video if you think that it was encouraging, if you think it was solid, and it will help somebody. Before I go, me and my husband been married 23 years, but I'm ready to give up. Oh, you got to rewatch the video. I don't know what's going on with you. Again, I usually have my email down in the comment section, but this video has really video is really chock full of nuggets. People have chimed in and everything. I'm really sorry to hear that. I know how it is to want to give up. I absolutely know how that is. And Joanne, she's on there. A couple of people, they all chimed in. So hopefully that gives you hope to know that, number one, you're not the first and won't be the last person to be in that position, but also hopefully watch the replay, and just hopefully something will click. Something will click in you to want you to go on. I don't like to hear about divorce. I just don't. I'm never happy about a divorce, whether it's people that I know, whether it, Kanye, this one. It's just so sad to me. It really is, because that's legacy. That's the foundation. That's family. And I think about the children. If there's children involved, it's never easy on the children. So yes, April says, we are praying for you, living life to the fullest. Again, my email will be tagged in the video. If you want to chit chat, I definitely can do that. But in the meantime, make sure you rewatch the replay, not because I just want you to watch it, but I feel like it was a chock full of good information and nuggets, not only from me, but other people chimed in with great advice and confirmation. So yeah, that's the topic for today. Yeah, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. This is what we do. We talk about just different things. And these guys, you definitely chime in with some awesome topics that you want to talk about. So like I said, I think tomorrow we're going to talk about a little bit of colorism and things that we do directly and indirectly that we don't even know that we're being colorist, perhaps. And so, yeah, Miss Queen E is also showing you some love, living life to the fullest. I'm sorry to hear, praying for you, hon. Yeah. So stick around. This is a really good community where we kind of champion around everybody and just kind of support each other. So hopefully this video will find you well. So with that being said, I think we've exhausted everything. Y'all, listen, such a good conversation. Such a good conversation. And I really appreciate the feedback, you guys' honesty and transparency. And I will, give you guys pieces of me as we go along, as I said, when it's appropriate for the moment. So with that being said, as always, like, share, leave comments. We can keep the conversation going in the comment section. Absolutely. This video will be unlisted for about a minute till I do the thumbnail, and then it'll be right back up for those of you that want to watch the replay. Have a good evening. God bless everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.